It's John and Rachel, and we're at a Zazu jagging around, but we're not jagging around about hair. Well, kind of, but really we're jagging around about
this book with Marianne.
And this book. Typical Emilio from a Zazu. He says, you three need to know each other. So here we are at a Zazu North, and we're talking to you because you have quite the relationship with Emilio. You go way back.
Yeah.
You have hair in common, but you left Pittsburgh to go do really big things, right? So this book that I'm holding,
right,
you have some tie to this because you've been in the industry, right?
Right, the hair industry. I moved to California from Pittsburgh in 1989. I went out to visit my daughter who was in music, so my daughter Rachel. And I got off the plane. I thought, I belong here. And I was working at the newspaper then, the Pittsburgh Press. I worked there about 5 years, but it just wasn't going anywhere. And so I went out there to see her, and I thought, came back, put my house on the market, moved out there with no job. I had 100 resumes. The first one I applied for was a job as a West Coast editor of a trade magazine called American Salon Magazine for the hair industry, hair and beauty. I got that job. I threw the 99 resumes away, and I never left this industry. It became a lifelong career. So I met Arnold Zigarelli. Of course, I knew Arnold when I lived in Pittsburgh, working for the press. I saved up my money just so I could get him to cut my hair. and when I was really poor, it was hard. It was $15.
This gentleman who you wrote the book
Brad
about,
Johns.
so this is Brad Johns.
Brad grew up in Pittsburgh, and just like me, and we both grew up in Ohio View Acres, the projects in McKees Rocks, but didn't know that until we never met, because his family moved in the year mine moved out. We moved out in 59, went down the end of McCoy Road. So then I went to Montour High School. He went to Stowe High School. He was in the projects till he graduated. Then he went to New York, studied acting at Stella at New York, in NYU, and then he became a hairdresser. He went to beauty school, and he worked his way up. He worked in every great salon, and in the 90s, he worked with Orbe, this famous editorial hairdresser in New York, in the Elizabeth Arden building, the beautiful building on Fifth Avenue, and he was his color director. And for 5 years, they literally created the supermodel. Brad was on Oprah 4 times. He was on The View. He was in People. They profiled him. They wrote about him in Allure magazine. His family all lived in Pittsburgh, and he always came back. Now he lives in LA. He came out after me. He retired, and asked me to write this memoir for him for 10 years or more, and I was too busy working. But I finally said, okay, the pandemic was happening. I had no more freelance. Everything was closed. So I said, all right, I'll do it. And we spent almost a year on this, writing it. And it's a really good book. It's a memoir of Brad's life. And the subtitle says a memoir of art, music, faith, family, and hair color. It's a lot about his family and how important family is.
Sure.
Faith. He had a faith journey that he goes through in this book. And my friend said, write about something you're compelled to write about. So I thought about 3 of my best friends, my high school friend, Linda, my college roommate, Claudia, and my good friend from when I was married and had kids up in Northeast PA, Lori, in Scranton. They all lost children, adult children, and it was tragic. And Lori lost 2 of her 3 children, which is beyond belief. And anyway, I talked to them about what it felt like.
That is this book.
Yes.
What we remember.
Yes. And so it's about 4 women who meet in the early 70s. Geography brings them together. They all end up in a little town in northeastern Pennsylvania for different reasons. They all meet playing bridge. Back in the early 70s, what women did, stayed home with kids and played bridge.
They still do.
Yeah. They separate and go their ways. But 20 years later, the daughter of one of the characters finds them all on Facebook, which is where you find people who are older than 50, and she invites them all to come to her house in Cape May for a long overdue reunion. And her mother, you find out what's going on with her mother, and she has a secret she wants to unburden herself of.
People can get this book where?
Amazon. You just go to Amazon, type the title in and my name, and bing, it pops up. That cover is an image from Cape May, New Jersey, and there's 2 pivotal scenes in the book that happen in Cape May. That's why that cover's there.
Now, big question is, you mentioned McKees Rocks.
Oh boy.
Rate Mancini's bread.
Oh, the best. There's nothing like it. And you can't get it anywhere. And I remember years ago, there was a TV show. It was like one of those, like you made a wish and you'd get all this stuff. And people that moved to California, their wish was that they could get Mancini's bread sent to them. Yeah, Pittsburghers. But I used to go to the church right across the street when I was in like maybe 8th grade, 9th grade. I belonged to this, it was a religious organization called Rainbow Girls. And my mom would drop me off down there. And when we came out, when the meeting was over in early evening, of course, Mancini's was going strong and you'd smell that bread. And we'd go get a loaf of bread and we'd just eat it. You just tear off
Easy
the
to
chunks because you didn't need butter. You didn't need anything.
Right.
Agreed.
Best bread in the world.
Check out the book.
Right.
It's a perfect holiday
Right,
gift. And you can go to MarianneDougherty.com to learn
Yes,
more.
yes, and
Awesome.
and you can buy Die on Amazon also if you look that up. Die by Brad Johns and Marianne Dougherty, and you'll like both of them. They're page turners and they're good. So
Ready for Mancini's bread?
I'm ready.
In-
You ready?
me too. I'm in.